Hello, and thank you so much for joining us for another great episode of Beneath the Surface with Purposeful Porsha. This month, we're focusing on grieving. Whether you're grieving the loss of a loved one, the loss of your relationship, it could be the loss of your business or your job. Maybe it's your purpose. Maybe you're trying to figure out exactly what you need to do in life. We had the opportunity to sit down with a very good friend of mine and my own personal physician, Dr. Alexia Moutsatsos. Dr. Alexia Moutsatsos is a Wilmington, Delaware native, and she is regionally recognized as a physician, an advocate, and now an author. She's board certified in obesity medicine, internal medicine, and integrative care. She has over 20 years experience managing both acute and chronic conditions. As an author of her new book, the Metamorphosis MD Method series, Dr. Moutsatos blends the art of science and medicine. She believes that sharing data is essential to advocating and understanding what is unrecognized in all diseases. I am so blessed and so happy to have Dr. Moutsatos on our sofa this week talking about mind and body. Tune in. Thank you so much again for being such a special guest on my sofa here on this podcast. I'm so excited. Like I said, we were going to speak on grieving. This episode, this series is on grieving. So let's start off with the first question. And again, thank you for being here.
You know I love you.
I love you more. Grief is very personal, deep, endearing for a lot of people, and they don't know how to move through it. So my first question is, grief isn't always tied to just death. How does the brain process grief when it comes from a non-death loss and the end of a relationship, the end of a career, or even losing your purpose?
We've seen, like you said, grief comes in a lot of different shapes and sizes. It's not necessarily losing your loved one. I mean, we even saw it during COVID,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
When people lost their community or they lost their purpose because their job was no longer what it used to be, or they couldn't do their job anymore. And we always talk about like the subconscious, is a really important kind of intangible piece as part of our health that really can affect us. So I saw that a lot, especially during COVID. But it's been something that we've known for centuries, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it does affect our health in a way, like we say, your immune system, right? So there are a lot of intangible things that affect our immune system, one of them being stress hormones. You've probably heard of cortisol. There's always talk about cortisol, right?
Yes.
So when the body undergoes some type of stressor, it doesn't necessarily need to be fight or flight, we call it, but it could be, feeling sad for chronic, or just stressed because, something's going on with your job or your kids. Your cortisol hormone increases, and this signals the body to hold on to things like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to survive, so I have to hold on to fat, or I have to always be, on edge because something bad's going to happen at any point. So that's okay in short instances, and we need that to survive, right? I mean, obviously that's how we survived as human beings, but it's the long-term effect of that. That's what's a problem.
Yes.
So when these stress hormones and these stressful situations are chronic, and I'm not just talking for like a day or two, but we're talking weeks to months to years, then that's where we start seeing the breakdown of the brain and the body and the immune system.
And I mean, everyone knows that I've always spoke about Dr. Alexia because she's so dear to me. We've been together for years. She's been my personal physician and my friend. And she has seen me personally go through so many levels and years of grieving from, my father passing, both my best friends passing, a loss of a relationship in COVID, things having to change on, the workforce level for me. And I have been a person, my body was stuck, my mind was stuck in suffering. And sometimes you just need someone who is on that cusp of friend, physician, therapist, pastor, like all the above to help walk you through. And that's why this series is so important, because we don't always have the luxury of having people in a space that can teach you things scientifically and medically, and also have a bedside manner where they can walk you through things on a personal and spiritual level. And so I myself have been greatly affected with a gamut of things affecting my health and my mental stability, with slight depression, anxiety, and she's been a person to help walk me through that. Have you seen a lot of patients from COVID on dealing with a gamut of things like I have been?
I have, and I've seen even before. So I want to say, it was an especially unique time because we had these stressors that nobody was ready for.
Yeah.
Right. And then, you have people suffering from like sudden death or disease, or, your grandparents dying, or someone dying from out of nowhere, or, you're now dealing with kids and new stresses.
Yes, for
or
sure.
We saw like the death of relationships. All of a sudden, these partners had to be home together, and then they're like, I think I like you. You know what I mean? Like, or maybe this is like the final nail in the coffin. So it really exacerbated like a lot of things, So like when we talk, things hit the fan for sure during COVID. But, like I said, this isn't something new. The cool thing about us and our relationship is I've known you for so long that at some point when when things were starting to hit, and, you can turn to, and I say, Porsche, this isn't a disease that's happening to you. This is stress.
Yeah.
This is stress that's breaking you down.
Yeah.
And so, and luckily with a lot of my patients that I've seen for some time, even during the COVID stages, you knew who they were before, and then you knew what was happening afterwards. And this is where you have to stop people and say, you know what, we don't need to do 10,000 images and labs. We need to get down to the psyche portion, like what's happening right now, right?
And that is so important. You can't ignore that's why this episode is touching both the mental and the physical, the body side, because grief can, if you like myself, try to lock it in and transfer it to something else. It can spill over into, your physical health. And for me, it was my mental, and then it was going right over into my physical.
Yep, you're right. Like I said, it's normal to go through stress, but there are abnormal stressors where when they're sustained over long periods of time, we do see breakdown of the body's ability to cope, right?
Yeah.
And they will translate ultimately into disease.
Yeah.
For instance, autoimmune disease, where, even diabetes can be considered autoimmune, or let's say rheumatoid arthritis or fibromyalgia or some of these other things. I saw an increase in over the time during the last couple of years, simply because with sustained stress, things translate into true disease states after that. So, not only are you having to deal with the psychiatric portion of people kind of fixing the root of the problem, but then you actually have a true disease state afterwards that unfortunately you may not be able to reverse, but you got to manage, and again, got to get to the root of the issues, stress, grief, whatever it is causing that too, if you're going to manage it all properly.
The first thing I said to her was, I can't go to the bathroom. And she's like, I think you have leaky gut. I'm like, what is leaky gut? And so it was like the constipation, like that. Now that really tore me up. Like years of the constipation, but that was like that's when she taught me about the gut brain and all of that stuff. Like, I was so stressed, I was holding, grief and stress in my gut, and that was the start of it all, honestly.
Yeah, and a lot of people, it's not hokey stuff, right? So there's just such a thing as the brain-gut axis, and our brain and our guts have a lot of the same receptors, like the serotonin receptors are in the gut, just like in the brain. So if something's affecting us psychiatrically or stress-wise, you're darn right it's going to start affecting the gut. And over a long period of time, that's when you start getting other symptoms. Like for you, it could have been, change in your bowels. For some people, it's intolerance to foods, gassiness, bloating, constant pain, after eating something or even without eating, weight loss or weight gain. So they're all, part of this stress. Like, and again, grieving and all the emotion, we call it in general stress, right? So that absolutely affects the gut. It's like the next thing besides the brain that's affected.
I mean, to be clear, I have all of those symptoms. When she told me I was allergic, it's not too much, but allergic to shrimp. I'm like, oh dear God. I'm like,
life is over.
No shrimp, no bread. Like, I don't have gluten sensitivity. So, it's definitely, you have to make sure that you get a handle on, wherever you're grieving. You have to definitely get a handle on that. So going into the next question, what are some of the ways grief can physically manifest in the body? I think we kind of touched on that. And why do people feel fatigued? Why do they feel the chest tightness? And even, like me, those gut issues.
Right. So like I said before, I see it manifest a lot of times as more of an autoimmune syndrome.
Okay.
So I can't say, you might see some people who can undergo chronic stress and they're fine. We may never know. But then you see other people where all of a sudden they're manifesting with some autoimmune disease, achiness all over. It could be even something all of a sudden like a thyroid disease comes on or diabetes, like I said, because there is some autoimmune component to a lot of those diseases. And whereas they never had abnormalities in labs before, all of a sudden they're coming up. So those are some of the big ones. I mean, and then obviously we talk about anxiety and depression, and some people couldn't even piece it together. They said, I don't even know if I feel depressed or if I'm even anxious, but I can't concentrate. Like everything's foggy, or I can't multitask the way. I think I'm losing my memory. I feel like I'm going upstairs and being like, why did I go upstairs? I mean, and we all have done that to a point, but some people are literally thinking they're like, I think I have early dementia.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're 40 years old. You probably don't, but let's get to the bottom of it. So, I see it affected people physically, but also in cognitive function too.
Yeah, for sure.
And that may not be a disease at all, but it's like a state, right? So they're in this state of just impaired cognitive thinking, right?
Yeah.
And they don't know. And so this is the fatigue that we're talking about.
Yeah.
So fatigue can take, many forms. For some people, it's the brain fog. For some people, it's I sleep, but I'm not getting quality sleep, or maybe I sleep too much and I'm just not feeling restored.
Yeah.
It can be because of, with the brain-gut axis, foods are bothering them, their diet suffers, so they're not eating properly.
Yeah.
So this all ties into some of the fatigue. And then just chronic stress. I mean, you want to shut down at some point. When you're under chronic stress, your ability to cope and your coping mechanisms just die off. And so eventually everything becomes so agitating that you withdraw within yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then you just feel tired because you're just withdrawn.
Yeah, for sure.
You don't want to get up out of bed. You don't want to do anything. You don't want to see anybody. And so fatigue can take a lot of these forms. And so, like I said, fatigue can mean different things, but those are typically what people complain about when I hear about fatigue.
And I complained about all of them, so you're not by yourself.
And you're not alone. So, yeah.
You are not by yourself.
Nope.
What role does the nervous system and hormonal balance play during grief? And how can we begin to soothe ourselves physically while still honoring the emotion?
That's a good question. Well, as far as the hormonal stuff, I have to be careful in talking about hormones because we have our female hormones and then we have the stress hormones. So obviously stress affects stress hormones. We know that. Um, they also tie into hormones in the digestive system. So constant stress may kind of mess up that axis of the hormones in the gut. So that's part of the reason why people are having digestive issues or, let's say, weight gain. Or always feeling hungry because your brain doesn't get the proper amount of hormone telling you you're full. The stress hormones can also play a role into female hormones, and those of us who are in perimenopause, menopause, and afterwards.
Yep.
Again, they're all part of that same plexus, along with the thyroid hormone. So elevations in these cortisol hormones can then start messing around with your other hormones too, and it's hard. Like I've had people say, "Can you just check my hormones? Check my estrogen, check my testosterone levels." And the problem with the tests that we have now is they're not that accurate. So there's a wide range of normal. So you might have very normal hormones, and it doesn't mean that there's not some disruption.
Right.
But your doctor might be like, everything's fine. The only time we're going to tell if something's wrong is if you truly have a deficit in them or if you're in menopause.
Right.
So that can be frustrating to people because they might be like, well, my hormones are normal, but technically speaking, they're probably not. I mean, again, think about when somebody is very stressed out and has missed their period. Again, that's just one extreme example of how the stress hormones do affect the whole plexus of our female hormones and can affect our periods. So again, tests may not be able to look at all that, but we know it's a big part of it. And so weight gain and all this stuff can then ensue. So a lot can just stem from that. I think that was the initial part of your question. I'm trying to remember the second part of your question you asked, Porsha.
It's okay. Look, I got a whole bunch of questions.
I keep talking all day. Yeah.
And how can we soothe ourselves physically?
How can we soothe ourselves physically? That's a great point. Because sometimes I talk to people about what can we actually do to do something for ourselves rather than just take a medicine as solving the problem necessarily. One thing I tell people is you just have to sometimes go analog, disconnect from digital, sometimes disconnect from people. Sometimes it's just a matter of eating by yourself, eating without looking at screens. Take a moment where you're really just letting your stress hormones decrease. You're not thinking about anything else but, whatever thoughts you have in your head. Simple things just like routine exercise.
Yes, for sure.
Bedtime routines or relaxing routines before bedtime, like your awesome studio here. I mean, you've got candles, you've got the right lighting, you've got a great color scheme. These are things that it's mind, body. I mean, the brain senses certain smells and says, this to me is spa. This is relaxing, right? So playing tricks on your mind with just the aesthetics of your life around you is really important too. And then there's just therapy and talk therapy. Sometimes it's just good to let it out.
Definitely. I for sure surround myself, and everyone knows, and those people who've been on the sofa know that I surround myself with connecting in the senses, making sure, visually it's calming. I can inhale, sense, I'm listening to something that's therapeutic, tasting something like I don't have lemon in your water today, but you come back and have lemon in your water.
I love lemon in water.
So I just make sure that, even the touch, like the sofa is comfortable. I just want to make sure that I'm tapping into a place of escape. And I have basically taught myself to do that in my own grief, somewhere where I can find rest. Because if not, I'll keep thinking, overthinking, triple thinking until the thought can't be thought anymore about why am I sad? What has left me? What do I no longer hold? And you have to move through that. You have to, move through it without losing yourself, because you definitely lose yourself when you're grieving.
100%.
And So that's why, for me, exercise, my space of luxury within myself is the sauna. I will go.
Love sauna. Anyone who hasn't tried sauna needs to sauna like 3 times a week.
I do.
Yeah.
I do. Sometimes even if I don't want to work out, I literally go in there and I go sit in my sauna and I sit there for 30 minutes.
Oh
and
my God. That's amazing.
I have a huge tumbler of water. Be clear, I'm hydrated.
Yeah.
And then after I get out the sauna, then I go into the chair massage because I just have to let go somewhere, somehow. And that's my physical to soothe, to get away from my grief. Because, listen, every day you're grieving of something, and the one thing is grieving of feeling like you lost your purpose or trying to find your purpose.
Yeah.
Because we're so busy being busy in life, we forget what we're supposed to be doing.
So that's a good point too. For you, it may be a sauna. For somebody else, it may be like their special chair they're going to go into, like in their room, or like a place in the park that they like to go to at a certain time of the day. You have to have. There is something to quiet, and you have to have a restorative place.
Yeah.
And it is truly disconnecting at some point from everybody else, so that you have time for these thoughts, or I call it like creative time.
Yeah, creative.
It's creative time in your brain. So even if you are grieving, sometimes it's okay to allow the time. You have these thoughts that go through your head, but then there's space also for the good stuff to come in too.
Yeah.
You just have to give yourself enough time to do it. Mm-hmm. And it might not, like I said, half an hour is good. 2 minutes isn't enough, right? Mm-hmm. So I really like that, and I think you should, share that with other people, as far as even if you don't have a sauna, you can find another spot to lie down, set, put on a candle, and kind of get the same benefit.
I did tell Dr. Phillips, who's a mutual friend of ours, on the second episode, that the sound bathing was another escape
that's so
for
cool.
me.
Yes.
I actually want to go to sound bathing class.
Yeah.
I really want to, because that is another place where you're mentally escaping.
Yep.
And when I first did that, tears would just roll down, because it's at first, if you're not tuned in, you're just thinking, what are these singing bowls? What are they doing?
I know.
But
once it's over, what are they doing? They're weird.
What is all this noise? But if
it's actually really cool.
But if you go into it with an open mind, then you will find rest. To be honest, so yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there. I talked about grounding before, but sound bathing is another one for me. Another question is, well, we talked about a lot of stuff in those. Let's talk about, how does prolonged grief increase your chronic condition, like the high blood pressure, the heart disease, and development of type 2 diabetes?
So, I think I touched a little bit about that before, saying that, elevations in the stress hormones themselves over a chronic period of time just lead to a decrease in the defense mechanisms. Number one, of the immunity. Let's say high blood pressure, for instance. If you're constantly stressed and your vessels are constantly, tensing up and, trying to push blood against the heart, well, eventually it just becomes such that it acclimates to doing that, and then it becomes a chronic condition.
Yeah.
You're putting pressure on the heart, you're putting pressure on the vessels. The diabetes one, again, I think is, partly autoimmune, and then partly also the fact that it disrupts the gut barrier itself and the hormone plexus. We know that the increase in your stress hormones can actually change the bacteria in your gut. There's a whole, there's a fine balance, we call it. And at some point with chronic stress, certain bacteria grow more than others. Again, it's hard to quantify. But then this alone can then affect, how your body absorbs your calories, how much insulin is projected out, how much fat you're making, which then affects all those other hormones and how they come out. And eventually, if there's impairments in your insulin and, how much of the hormones go back up to the brain telling you you're not hungry and this and that, then you're going to develop diabetes. So there's a bit of an immune portion to it, but there's also definitely like a gut bacterial, gut-brain axis thing. It's complicated. Like I said, medicine is truly an art, not always a science. We don't have everything quantifiable, but I think there's multiple mechanisms in how these affect you in a chronic way.
So let me ask you a question, because I'm very curious. I mean, again, you are for sure chronic and internal medicine, but if a person is dealing with multiple ailments, could you not just go in and just treat the gut? Can you not just say, let's skip all this stuff and let's just go straight to the gut and work on that, and then that should manifest in healing the rest?
Yeah, that's a good question. So you'll see, like, especially in certain fields, like functional medicine, they really almost look at the gut first. And I can't say, I've definitely done that too with a lot of my patients. And not in a way where we're checking 10,000 labs, but if I see that, a lot of times we'll go very simple with things. We'll do like a detox, kind of restrict certain things in the diet that we know are disruptive. Treat what we call like SIBO, which is inappropriate bacterial overgrowth in the bowel. So if I do see gut stuff along with other things, I will try to treat the gut first. And I think that it's become more and more, I don't want to say popular, but at least people are becoming more aware of how important the gut is in affecting other things. So that's a great question. And I think in a lot of cases, I do try to do that.
And you have done it for me.
Yeah.
So that's why, like I was raw vegan, vegetarian, pescatarian. I was all of it. And we were literally joking earlier. She just walked in the office. She's like, listen, after we talked, she said, I want you to get this book, Eat to Live. And I started to read that book and eat, and some things I didn't know about the certain oils until I read that book. I need to cut that out of my diet. But I'm so grateful for you because you don't dismiss natural as well. You put things hand in hand. You know what I'm saying? Like the way we should look at medicine. You respect people's religious beliefs if they're fasting, because I do a lot of fasting. She just doesn't dismiss, and that is so well received by someone because you listen and you talk to people and you understand it doesn't have to be just this way, but let's consider these other things. And me eating more of a plant-based diet, intermittent fasting, she told me, look, we're going to do the intermittent fasting. She introduced that to me, and that was before it got popular.
Yeah, well, when you think about it, I mean, obviously, that I'm of Greek heritage, right? With a name like Moutsatos, it's hard not to conjure up a Greek heritage. But, Hippocrates said, let food be thy medicine. And that's always something that everyone in my family was very much, if you're sick, this is kind of what you eat. If you want to, have good energy, this is what you eat. But you always keep things simple, fresh, whole foods. That's what's going to keep you healthy. I mean, when all these diet fads came out, I remember my parents poo-pooing it. What is this low fat? What is this? Like fat-free bologna, this kind of stuff. So, at least we've kept to those tenets. And like you said, and culturally speaking, for religions, I mean, you fasted. I believe in fasting. Many cultures do. And just like you have to give your brain rest, sometimes your gut needs a break too. Sometimes it doesn't want to keep working. Sometimes it just needs a chance to reset. Cultures have been doing this forever. Think about, monastic people or nuns or Buddhist monks, who go through periods of not eating or resetting, and then there are periods of celebration. So, there are reasons that people, not just for a psychiatric purpose, do that, but there is like a health benefit to it as well. Again, it's all connected. So.
Absolutely.
You
Yeah,
know?
she said, eat her in the perimeters. Like, don't go in there. Let me get in crackers.
Yeah.
Do it in moderation.
Exactly. Stick to no boxes right now. Let's stay away from the box stuff.
Listen, she loves me hard because she'll tell me real quick. No, girl.
I gotta be reminded too. We all have to be reminded. And like I've said, you've read my book. I talk about an 80% rule. When you're maintaining in life, look, we're not perfect. I'm not perfect.
You got a little room to play.
You gotta have a little room. We're human beings, but you gotta be good a good portion of the time if you want to take care of. We've only got one body.
That's right. Absolutely.
So,
And speaking of your book, I'm so proud of her. Her book, In Losing Weight in the Modern World, Tweak Your Transformation, you highlight, how modern stressors like low nutrition quality and typical diets and unexpected life upheavals can also disrupt our metabolism. Let's talk about that and how the stress response from your body is. Let's also talk about how you can unpack how grief, whether you're losing a loved one, relationship, a job, business, might significantly trigger these hormonal shifts. So let's pull from your book because we're going to talk about the book later, but let's talk about how these things affect.
Yeah, no, it's good. So my book is meant to be simple, and it's simply written because part of it is to conjure the thought that losing weight should not be overly complicated. Our lives are complicated. Grief is complicated. Stress is complicated. Family, work, all these things are complicated. And we tend to put a lot of additional stress on ourselves. When we look at our weight increase, we look at it as a failure on our end.
Yeah.
Or, a self-image thing. Oh my gosh, I'm letting myself go, or I'm doing something wrong, or I'm not pretty, or whatever. So I wrote my book simply in a way, partly just so, number one, everyone can understand it, but also to let people realize we can just tweak things sometimes. It's not about like starting the newest fad diet or, making yourself think that you have to do this for the rest of your life. We're going to tweak things up and down based on where we are in our season. In fact, I talk about we're seasonal creatures.
Yeah.
When you grieve or you go through these seasons yourself, sometimes they're long seasons. They're
long.
Right?
Yeah.
But you may have to tweak what you're doing within your diet to meet your needs at that time. Sometimes all that is just maintaining. Just an exercise routine and not expecting yourself to go too stressful. Sometimes it's, getting back to basics. It could say, all right, I'm eating a lot out, I'm doing this, and I'm just going to keep a very basic structure to my meal, make my things super simple, have somebody prepare something for me because I know I don't have that kind of time. I know I'm like 50,000 things are pulling at me. I really try to have people understand that we have to really be kind to ourselves.
Yeah.
And make a tweak when the time comes and not put this pressure on ourselves to make major changes to lose weight. It's a journey. It all is. And just like getting through grief and everything else is a journey, there will come a time when you're feeling like you can come out of it and you can maybe add something else to your regimen, whether it's a change in your diet, a change in your exercise regimen, a change in, kind of a routine of sorts. So that's when I say tweak your transformation. This is something we're tweaking all through our life.
Absolutely. And I took it as be realistic.
Yep.
Because, crap happens. What they say now, life is lifing.
Life, yeah, for real.
And and I have done just that. Even though I have a schedule, I know on the weekends, I'm going to just chill a little bit. I'm not going to be as strict, but during the week, I'm following the regimen. But again, like I shared before, I have so many sensitivities now that I have to work around it, but I'm not suffering. I just know, to stay within my limits, but if I go out, I can't have shrimp anymore like I used to, but
and I've seen you during your ups and downs.
Yeah, she has.
And sometimes people take their challenges, or like you said, their grief and their stress, and they just translate it into an opportunity for themselves to really look internally and say, okay, this is my opportunity to channel those energies into taking care of myself, rather than abusing myself by just like eating badly or drinking too much.
Yeah.
Right? So we can take those challenges and make them into benefits for ourselves. And you've done a really good job, because I've seen you morph over time. I've seen you at the bottom, and I've seen you looking really good like you do now.
Oh,
and not to say that, we all suffer. And not to say that, your life is stress-free.
Well, I mean, again, we have been blessed to have a friendship, Like when I'm in her office, I'm her patient, she's my physician. But we have that in between, hey girl, you okay? Hug. And tell me straight up, where she's concerned, where she's worried. And that's the safe space, Yeah. And for you to say you've seen me, because it's close to 20 years, right?
Yeah.
You've seen me transform, during my lows and my highs, and you've helped me celebrate them. And a lot of it was, that's why I didn't say grief, but like grieving, because there were so many changes and transitions in my life, and literally she's been there for doggone near all of them,
Ups and downs, honey. Yeah.
Doggone near all of them. So I'm forever grateful, and I'm even more grateful that I was able to share you with the listening and watching audience, so they can see how blessed I am to have so many great people surrounded around me. And now that she's an author, congratulations, you are able to share information on your book. So can you tell them about your website and your book that you can help other people like you've helped me?
Absolutely. So as Porsha knows, I'm her primary care doctor too, but I'm board specialized in obesity medicine, and that has become my passion over the last 10 years. I've spoken and advocated for, the community surrounding this, and so I have a website. It's Metamorphosis MD, and my book series, actually, so this is the first of my series. You should be seeing something come out later this year. It's called the Metamorphosis MD Methods, because they're really methods. They're methodical. These are things that change with time. They are not dictations. And I really hope that when people look on my website, metamorphosismd.com, you can read a little bit about my theories and kind of my background and what my beliefs are too. And then in my book, it's called Losing Weight in the Modern World, Tweak Your Transformation. I really try to kind of talk a little bit to everybody out there, so that everybody can take a little bit of something from the book. And it's a book that's meant to be used as a reference, because if you understand what I'm talking about, you might read it now and you might come back to it in 6 months when you're doing something differently and say, I kind of want to look back at the chapter on like the 80% rule, or kind of want to look back on how I might talk about meal prepping or things like that. So I really like to make it approachable, accessible to everybody, and not just women, but men too.
Yeah, for sure.
So, thank you for the shout out on that as well. But most importantly, I want to come across as approachable, that I care, because I actually really care. I think I care about you as a patient. I care about all my patients, sometimes to a fault. But, this is my ability to kind of get out there and help people. And it's not just about weight. To me, it's about feeling like your best self.
Yeah, wholeness.
Exactly. If you read my book, I don't even talk about a BMI. I don't say this is the right weight for people, and people often ask me that. And that's something I can go into detail later. But for me, it's about feeling the best person that you can be.
Yeah, your best version of yourself.
Yep.
And you're an advocate for that. And I will tell you, I mean, it's almost like a celebrity waiting list for you in the waiting room for her, because Because she really takes her time. No one feels rushed. And you know what? All of us as patients, when we go to see her, we're okay waiting because we know the same,
I try not to.
No, but it's
you know?
okay. But I can speak for myself for all these years. Like, I never mind waiting because I know the time, the intimacy, the bedside manner, the love, the care, the respect that you give when you're with us. And that translates
Thanks.
over into her book because she's doing a service of sharing what she knows educationally, scientifically, but she's coming off as, your friend in this book. It's like, it really is like, girl, don't touch that. And don't worry about that. You have those chips for today, but go work out tomorrow.
That's good. You were paying attention. I appreciate that.
So
You're always a good student.
I am. Listen, and she is to me as well. She'll ask me questions on things, and I appreciate the respect for both of our industries and our knowledge. So I'm so grateful for you. I'm so grateful for you sitting on this sofa. I'm so grateful for the listeners writing notes and getting information, and the people who are watching today's episode. And I want to say to everyone, thank you again for being a part of this podcast today. And I pray that you were blessed with some great information from Dr. Moutsatos.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining. Have a good one. Bye-bye.